I find it very interesting that the British, I mean, the Sikhs have fought the British, right? I mean, I don't know about that history in
Yeah,
India,
yeah.
but there have been several wars, is that right? Between the British and the Sikhs.
The Sikhs, the British basically, when they came into India, their
Mm,
concentration was, in Calcutta and then all the way up to Bombay. They did not touch the northern part of India.
yes.
They were occupied below.
Uh,
In the northern part, like I said, the Sikhs built their own empire. They fought against the Mughals. The Sikhs flew our flag up at the Red Fort in Delhi. So the Sikh empire at its zenith, as I said earlier, extended. It was vast, spreading all the way. We even Afghanistan.
mm,
You find we had thousands of Sikhs in Afghanistan until the Taliban took over, but the Sikhs had gone all the way to Afghanistan and were ruling the majority parts of Afghanistan. And over this side, the northeast, all the way. Uh, uh, so it is not the present day Punjab, the small bit of Punjab. This is, I think, not even 1/10 of what it was during
uh,
that period. So we were, or rather, the Sikh Empire was the last to be defeated by the British. The
mm,
last two wars were fought. The first Anglo-Sikh War and the second Anglo-Sikh War. I think
right.
46, 47, and 1846, 47, and then 48, 49. And the British then recognized the prowess of the Sikhs, that these guys are good material for soldiering. So they brought them into World War One. World War One, we had 400,000 Sikhs fighting. Then World War Two, same thing, all the way in
Mm,
Europe and everywhere.
mm, mm,
Uh, we fought with the Anzuk. I mean, the Sikh community, the Sikh soldiers fought in Gallipoli War. Certain regiments are highly remembered. Go to Kranji War Memorial and you see the names of Sikh soldiers. So we fought all over the world, but under the British flag.
What do you mean by good material for soldiering?
The Sikh, if you look at any of the books,
Yeah,
I was one day very, really very surprised with this term. I know, Sikhs,
yeah.
where they were involved in. So this writer refers to the so-called Punjabicization of the Indian Army.
Mm,
He uses this term, the Punjabicization. So I'm very interested. So what he was trying to describe is that after the Indian Mutiny, the famous landmark incident in India, 1857, the British thought process changed quite a fair bit. Initially, they were recruiting, so local soldiers from local regions to just help them to resolve their internal issues. But after 1857, they realized they had a problem on their hands. And then they came up with this class system of recruitment. They came up with this creation of martial races.
mm,
Those Sikhs were classified as a martial race by them, and the British government, uh, from then onwards, basically had a clear policy to recruit as many Sikhs as possible. And like I said, we were over proportionately
mm.
represented. For example, the Sikhs were only 2% of the Indian population, and I think we are still around there. But in the army, they were close to 25%
Mm,
of those fighting calls. So they brought in a lot of Sikhs and they distinguished the Sikh regiments. I mean, you're talking of them doubling the Sikh regiments after 1856, from about 10 regiments, they brought them to about, I'm told, about 50 over regiments. I was reading somewhere. So because they saw them when they fought
mm,
against them, and then they
mm,
saw that these guys fight with a lot more fervor because
mm.
the 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 religion part comes up there too. Even today in the Indian Army, when the regiments are sworn, a soldier takes his oath. He holds our
Mm.
smaller version of the Holy Book to take the oath.
Yeah.
So these are some of the things that sort of inspired them, and I think religion had a great part to play. And the
Mm,
Sikhs because they went through difficult times. So that's how the British classified them, a martial race. They created a hell of a lot of regiments. Well, these have been reduced over the years because India had their set of problems. The 84 crisis, attack on the Golden Temple, they had to reduce some of the battalions. Some battalions mutinied because of religious sentiments and so on.
Yes.
But yes, they have been predominantly there. And World War I, World War II accounts, you find statues of Sikhs all over the world, in Italy, in Morocco, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's remarkable, right? I mean, for the British to bring one of the colonized peoples and to fight with them on the battlefield,
Yeah,
on the front,
yeah,
right? It requires a lot of trust, right?
yeah, yeah.
And so, I mean, like discipline, or courage, are the things that are important among the Sikhs?
Yes, discipline is
Mm,
of utmost importance. So when the
yeah.
British were recruiting them, they had conditions that the Sikh, they will not recruit a Sikh if he did not have beard and turban. He will not be recruited into the Sikh regiment. They had height provisions, you know. They had height provisions. They even had chest measurements, if you read their
Uh-huh.
recruitment directives. So, and discipline was insisted upon. And the religious element again comes into play because everything we keep going back, just like the Israelis, they keep talking about never forget this and so on, and they have got their famous Masada episode where Israeli recruit go there to swear. Sikhs too, with they carry our Guru Granth Sahib, our living Guru, in every battlefield. They came wherever they went. The regiment will have, again, that is the Indian system. In the Indian army, every religious group has got their religious institution in the camp. There is a Gurdwara, there may be a masjid, there will be a mandir, and they pray and so on. And if I can digress a little bit, because they have it along those racial lines, whether it's good or bad is another issue, because at certain times you can have problems where loyalties get tested because of this and that. But it's very interesting. If a commanding officer, a Muslim commanding officer, commands a Sikh regiment, he goes to the Gurdwara with the Sikhs, and he motivates them or he inspires them by words from the Guru Granth Sahib. If a Sikh is leading, say, another regiment, a commander, he too will go and try and his best to sort of inculcate their own practices into their motivation and inspiration. So the Sikhs, wherever they went, they brought their holy book and they let out the war cry. Sikhs, you'll be surprised. There are German accounts of Sikhs who confronted them in the war. And they say, these guys are crazy. They just shout and they keep charging at you. That kind of accounts are found everywhere.
What is the mindset, right, of the Sikhs, the policemen and the armed personnel, when they are working for when they were working for the British in the past? Was it professional or was it also political? Like there's a loyalty to the colonial system in that sense.
Yes, whoever they work for. I mean, even today, Sikhs are all over the world. There are Sikhs in the Canadian Army, there are Sikhs in the Australian Army, American Army. Now, even in the Portugal, Italian armies, there are Sikhs, and the governments are allowing them to keep their hair and whatnot. Sikhs basically have a lot of respect for authority. It is sort of imbibed in them. That's particularly important. But there may be occasions, for example, there were occasions when the Golden Temple was attacked, then the loyalty gets a little bit muddled up because to them this is our greatest religious shrine and our temple. And some regiments revolted and so on. But that was an internal thing. But say you're talking of the British and so on, they were completely loyal to the British all the way in all their efforts. But during the struggle for independence, if you know, there was Chandra Bose who had raised his own INA, Indian
Yes.
National Army.
Yeah.
And obviously, the main center was Singapore then. So there were Sikhs who felt that they wanted independence, and some Sikhs did join the Japanese. Some Sikhs did join the Indian National Army
Mm.
against the British. So at that time, yes, some loyalties were tested because on the one hand, they were fighting for their colonial master who was ruling India. On the other hand, some of them felt they were fighting for their own independence because that's the time, the Japanese and others also sort of made promises to Indians that why are you under the British yoke? Time for you guys to fight for yourself and so on. So Chandra Bose was also quite an inspirational figure. There were there are a few accounts of some joining the German army.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So very, very, very small account, but very interesting that
Yeah.
where loyalties can be torn apart purely because some were fighting for independent India and some felt, no, we will still fight for the British and talk about independence later.
Yeah.
So you had that two schools of thought.
Yes. I mean, sometimes the circumstances have a role to play, right?
Correct.
I mean, you were going to talk about the dockyard strike in '63, right? And this is actually in your right the step of your house, right? The dockyard strike. What was the role of the Sikhs in the strike?
No, the dockyard strike was, nothing. It was a
Mm.
significant event in the sense that about 10,000 workers went on strike for
Yeah.
about 30 odd days. They were not allowed to enter the base.
Mm.
Uh, but the more interesting part then was that when they were not inside, we saw the white men all cleaning the places. They had to clean the drains,
Yeah.
carry the rubbish. So first time we saw European sailors doing all the menial tasks which were left to the uh, Asians ever since the base started operating. And Sikhs only purely involved in the security and so on, nothing.
Could you say something about the Jagas? Because
Well,
it's kind of connected, right? But it's also kind of separate from the policemen and the
yeah,
security. Yeah,
yeah. Jagas was in the old days, they are part of the so-called migration that came into Singapore,
yeah.
the flow of migration. Uh, Immediately after towards the end of the 19th century, there was quite a large flow
Mm.
of migrants from India to various parts of the world, and the Punjabis, the Sikhs, were the most. So there were some serving policemen who, say, for example, when post-war, the Sikh police contingent got disbanded because the police force was being reorganized. Some turned to become Jagas or, at various places, factories and so on.
Mm.
And obviously some uneducated ones who came also became Jagas, but the bulk were, peddlers, moneylenders and whatnot. And the Chinese Taukes, the big Taukes and so on, they preferred the Sikhs
Yeah.
for reasons of appearance or otherwise, I do not know, or their fierceness or their
Yeah.
deterrent factor. But they were all in the banks, the big Chinese Taukes. So you go to the
Mm.
cemeteries, okay, Brown Cemetery or elsewhere, you find the statue of the Sikh. Even now, at the standing, whether he's guarding the cemetery, the tomb, or the person who died wanted the statue there, perhaps for afterlife, I do not know. But they are there. So Jagas, yeah, quite a lot of them were Jagas. Even when I joined the army and we used to do a bit of
Mm.
exercises at night, you find in the city area, the Jagas were the only ones on their chapoy beds everywhere. Banks at Jagas.
Ah,
Yeah, that was a feature of the past. Now,
correct. Yes.
security guards is the thing, but there are not many Sikhs who are security guards now. They are more into other professions and so on.
Right, right. Could we talk about the other professions? Did you mention Sikh money lenders?
Yeah, Sikh moneylenders has
Yeah.
been another
Okay.
aspect. There were a lot of Sikh moneylenders. In fact, their history still exists. In fact, they had a moneylenders association of Sikhs, strictly
Mm,
Sikh moneylenders association. So there must have been moneylenders, and I know quite a few individuals who were moneylenders, and then their children carried on in that business. But obviously now they don't call themselves moneylenders; they are financial.
right.
Some have grown really big, and
Yes.
today they have changed the name of the Moneylenders Association to a Sikh Business Association. There are quite a few friends of mine, and they are not just moneylenders. It's a combination of various others, but there are few moneylenders too. Were very, very, very few who, because they were carrying on over time. Yeah.
Was this a specific Sikh group in Punjab, the money lenders
No,
historically?
no,
No.
no. It is just that
Okay.
they came here and it became. It's not like the Chattias
Yes,
that
yes.
you may have heard of. No, no.
I see, I
This
see.
is something that must have become from the circumstances. But there is a bit of a linkage. I mean, if you go to Punjab, the way the farmer system is organized. So there is a particular group of businessmen in Punjab who are there to provide the finance to the farmers. So the farmers borrow from them to run their farms. And then when harvesting comes,
Mm.
they share. So yes, there is this so-called group or class, but whether we call them moneylenders or not, I do not know. But there are similarities. So there is this category that still exists in India even today.
Could you talk about the British withdrawal? Was that a big blow, a big change for the Sikhs?
The British withdrawal, where the uniform services were concerned,
Mm,
obviously came as a bit of a shock and was a bit of a turning point, especially for northern Sikhs and
mm,
also elsewhere, wherever Sikhs were deployed in the British elements. You had, for example, the Army Depot Police, which was also in existence, and so on. So the British withdrawal, especially for a young
mm,
guy like me then,
mm,
uh, just about joining the army in '67, and we heard this announcement that they plan to withdraw. That was
mm,
quite a shocker. And then 1971, you find it been executed. So you can imagine all the people in the naval base, 10,000 people given free accommodation.
yeah.
And now suddenly you're not even sure whether you're going to have a roof over your head. So the uncertainty that was created was really quite scary.
Mm,
I myself, I mean, sense it then. I mean, hey, what the hell are we going to do now? We got to vacate the quarters, and where do we go? Fortunately, the government was quite fast. They came up with their plans. If you remember, they created the Business Economic Conversion Board,
mm,
and then they also created their earlier version of the uh, Land Authority, whereby they started coming out with different policies and so on. So they allowed people to stay in the bases where you pay rent. So they created new rent structures, started fixing PUB meters, which didn't exist earlier because it
mhm,
was all free. So all that happened, but it was quite a shocker. Obviously, where the Sikhs were concerned, some decided to leave. They went
mm,
to Britain. About 100 over families from the naval-based Sikh community, I know for sure, migrated to UK because it was so easy then, as a British subject. And some families went back to India, not just the Sikhs. I also know of other Indian friends and so on. And some of us families remain. My family was one of them. My father decided we should remain and try our luck here.
mm.
And but that period created quite a fair bit of uncertainty, for sure, because jobs were gone straight away. Accommodation was a serious issue.
Yeah. Did some of the policemen and the policemen join Sembawang shipyard?
Some of the policemen went on to join the Sembawang shipyard
Yeah,
security element.
yeah.
Yeah, some joined them. Some joined the, I think what it was called, the IADF, Auxiliary Integrated Police Force. The New Zealanders and all that came in to occupy their barracks
Okay, okay.
and that one. So that small, they also needed a small police element to guard their gates. So some joined the so-called, the IADF force, and some joined Sambong, and some basically, like my father, he went on to do a bit of security duty. Uh,
Right,
he
right.
he went on to work at one particular hotel.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's actually a change, right? Because although the Anzuk would still be there and Sembawang shipyard needed some security, the security force is going to be much smaller, right?
Yeah, much smaller,
When the
obviously.
naval base closed down.
Yeah, because now you don't have to man the gates anymore. All the
That's
gates
right.
disappeared. Now you only
Uh,
man the dockyard gate.
Well, so was there a serious problem of unemployment for the Sikhs?
Yeah, there was. There
Yeah.
was. And there was also, like I said, a fair bit of anxiety because of the uncertainty.
Mm, mm,
It was, those were a bit of troubling times. I was a bit fortunate because I joined the army in 67.
mm.
And by 69, I was already a second lieutenant, and I decided to make the army my career. After that,
When
my brother.
so when you joined the army and you joined SAF, did it require a change in mindset that now your employer and the nation, right, is a Singaporean nation?
Oh, yeah,
Mm.
obviously. I mean, uh, those people around my generation, we sang different national anthems at different times.
Yeah.
I sang the God Save the Queen when I was studying in the British Admiralty School within the naval base. And then when our PAP came, 59 self-government, we started singing our national anthem, Majullah Singapura. And then when we went into Malaysia in 63, we had to convert to Negaraku. And shortly later, back to Majullah Singapura.
Do you ever find that this kind of the British had classified the Sikhs as a martial race,
Yeah.
and this long historical association with the security is sometimes being negative, right? Because people tend to stereotype the Sikhs. Have you ever encountered or heard stories about this kind of stereotyping or discrimination, doubting what the Sikhs can do outside of security?
I really do not know.
Mm,
I think the image has
mm,
worked well because
mm,
that's why in many parts of the world they still keep employing Sikhs in the armed forces. At least the
mm,
martial race aspect is well recognized uh, in a positive way. Uh, Look at Singapore itself. When we started the army, there were a lot of Sikh volunteer officers.
mm,
When we started the army, even before the first batch were recruited, there were some volunteers and so on, and some who had already joined one as the first Singapore Infantry Regiment as early as 1957. So there were Sikhs in
mm,
um, the first regiment that Singapore Army started in
mm,
1957. In fact, the first, very interesting, the first Sikh soldier to be sworn in with the regimental number 0001 was a guy called Harchan Singh. And the second soldier to be sworn in was uh, his contemporary Fong Fook Kay with serial number 0002. So, and sworn in by a local judge, Sinadore, a magistrate then, who later became
mhm.
High Court judge. So, and then there were Sikhs already then joining to serve this nation because they had made this country their home. And then when national service or Sati, we decided to build our own army. We became independent.
Mm,
The first few commanders, I mean, the majority, there were a lot of Sikh commanders then, captains, majors, and so on, Sikh commanders. Then in the first batch, when the first batch joined, and 119 graduated in June 66, June 67. There was an overrepresentation of Sikhs. I mean, in Singapore, what is our population? We are today about 13 to 15,000. Not so accurate figures. Some people say we are about 13 plus. I would say we are about 15 because some of our NRICs record us as Indian instead of Sikh. So there could be a bit of a distortion in figures. But on a positive side, we are about 15,000. What's that in 6 million?
Yes.
We have been overrepresented in the army because we like soldiering, and we are looked at positively in that way. Sure, there were occasions, obviously, where you can be looked at negatively, working for the colonial master and so on. For example, during World War II, the Japanese, some Singaporeans had to work for the Japanese. So a few policemen, for example, in the naval base, were employed by the Japanese to serve their interests. So there were those kind of occasions. Some of our leaders too served the Japanese during that particular period. But other than that, I think we have been looked upon positively. The Jaga image may be a bit of a negative thing. You know, that's all we are able to do, sit there at the bank or whatever. But that were those times. With education today, our Sikhs are everywhere.
Yes.
In Singapore, we are in the legal fraternity. We are there in the medical side. We are there in IT, high tech, whatever. And we also continue to serve in the SAF. And Sikhs have risen to the highest ranks. We had Sikh general, colonels, lieutenant colonels, low-ranking guys like me, and then down the line majors, captains, and so on. So we are represented everywhere, well represented.
Can I ask you about the women, the Kaurs?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, so much of the history is kind of male dominated, right?
Yeah.
What do we know about the women in the community? I mean, for myself, when I was in JC, my history teacher was a Kaur, and she was an excellent history teacher. Are they kind of a bit like neglected, right? Because the men have such an image and such a reputation.
No, sir. Our women are well represented everywhere. One unique thing about Sikh religion from the very onset is gender equality. We do not believe. That's why the caste system or the woman is of an inferior position. No. Our respect for mothers is unique because we believe in the concept that whoever you are, you can be a king, but you came from a mother, a woman, a female. You can be anybody. So women are held in high esteem. And our women are well represented. Today, I see quite a few school principals. You got doctors. Look at the Sikh women in the legal profession. They are there. Some have joined the armed forces too. They are serving in the army. And they're everywhere, frankly. In fact, in several fields, I would dare to say our ladies are doing better than the men. No, seriously. Yeah.
Can I ask you historically, right, the trajectory of migration? Would the Sikhs come as just a man first, or would they come as a family to Singapore?
The early years, I mean, current day migration, families migrate together anywhere in the world. But going back to earlier times,
yes,
the migration was basically mainly the men came first, males. Perhaps because of the uncertainty, they do not know what charted waters they are going to. It was the men. And when we were writing the history of our Sikhs in northern Singapore, I was looking at the temple records. So they got membership records, You can make a differentiation who was a bachelor and who was married. Because certain blocks in the naval base were declared as bachelor blocks.
yes,
So
yes.
only bachelors live there. So from there we could see, and we see majority were bachelors who came. Then the second round, if they liked it, they went back. Then they brought their families along. So that was the migration pattern in the early years. Obviously, post-independence, I mean, whoever is migrating here, they come as families.
So would the women then, when they come, they would usually be homemakers, or would they also find a job? I mean, during the British days.
British days, I think mostly were homemakers. Given the limitation in jobs, I mean, that was didn't apply just to the Sikhs. I think applied even to the Malays and others. Mostly, it was the men who was bringing food to the table than the women, because it all depends on what kind of jobs were available, and they were limited, obviously.
So your
But
generation,
there were
yeah,
ladies who were deployed as teachers and so on in schools, conducting classes in temples, that sort of thing. Yes.
yeah, because your generation would be the first generation, I guess, where the women would begin to venture out into the workforce.
Mine and maybe
Mm,
a bit earlier.
yeah, right.
Maybe a bit earlier. Yeah.
And
Me and my wife,
most,
we were both working. I mean, but even
most,
the generation before me, possible. Yeah, most of them. Yeah.
and most Sikhs would be, because of the British connection, they will be literate and educated, right, to some extent.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
So they will go into the kind of clerical teaching jobs, nursing maybe. Were
Nursing,
there?
yes. Nursing was
Yes,
quite a
yeah.
popular profession among the girls. Teaching
Mm,
mainly,
mm,
the more preferred profession those days. And obviously, those who aspired higher, I mean, succeeded in higher education. I know of a few lady doctors and so on. You heard about them, yeah. Currently, I mean, they are in all professions. Now it's well spaced out, distributed in terms of people in almost every profession that you can see.
Can I ask you about Sikh culture and food? Food maybe. I mean, right now, these days, there are quite a number of Punjabi restaurants or Sikh restaurants, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
Mm. Tell us about the cuisine of the Sikhs.
I am not much of a food expert. I eat whatever comes my way. But the northern cuisine can
Yeah.
be
Okay.
distinguished from the
Okay.
southern cuisine.
Okay.
I mean, the northern cuisine is a little bit different from the southern. Southern, you have the dosas and all those things. The northern cuisine is a little bit different because, again, the vegetation that is grown in northern India and so on. So the traditional dishes, and now obviously it's fusion everywhere. The mixture. But I'm sure you're familiar with all the dals and the chicken and the mutton, roast and whatever.
Yeah.
I'm really no food enthusiast.
We have to get you to write a book on the cuisine one day. What about like the festivals, celebration of festivals?
Festivals, yes. I mean, we celebrate Deepavali just like the Hindus. Though our celebration is about the same, but we celebrate, that was the day where one of our gurus uh, sort of assisted in getting the release of a lot of release of rulers who had been detained by the Mughal Empire then, emperor then. So that is one of them. But it is the same with the Hindus. We all celebrate Deepavali. We celebrate what we call Hola Mala. Again, our martial art spirit, our martial spirit. If you go to Punjab, Hola Mala is a big activity. You find all these Sikhs, our Sikh warrior group, dressed in blue attire, swords and everything, where they show their prowess in fighting, horse riding, and various other activities. It's called Hula Mala. And yeah, then we also have some, because most of our fun celebrations are quite similar to the Hindus of northern India. So we also have what you call Holi. We also celebrate Holi, where they throw colors and so on. Nowadays, it's quite more prominent. But more importantly, we celebrate Vaisakhi, the birth of the Khalsa, when Guru Gobind Singh gave us this, if I may use the term, uniform, and made us one with the identity and image. So that is our most important. And obviously, another very significant event in our life, we celebrate the birth of Guru Nanak. This year will be the 556th anniversary. So that's a significant event. 555 last year was a big thing. So that's what we celebrate. And obviously, we commemorate the martyrdom of our gurus. Not celebrate, but we commemorate those events so that we have a sense of our children sort of become aware of all these events that our religion has gone through.
Yeah, I mean the because of the history of the military and the security, is there like an effort to document or even have a memorial for the Sikhs who have fallen in history?
Yes. These are, but most of these events where our gurus and so on are concerned, or any of those are held in all our temples and so on. But the commemoration, if you go to Australia, they commemorate the Battle of Gallipoli.
Right. Yeah.
Every year, and Sikh soldiers march as part of the contingent. There are celebrations in the liberation of Italy, liberation of France, and the Sikhs gather there too, because many Sikhs died in many big battles in that area. Sikhs are not in Israel, but the Israelis have printed stamps to commemorate the role of the Sikhs in Palestine early days, because the Sikhs fought in the Middle East too. There is always commemoration in India for the fallen soldiers. I was serving there at the Singapore High Commission, and I went on two such commemoration events. There is a big event. There's also another big event that they do at the Northeast, the famous battle that was fought during the Burma War. Name just slips my mind. Yeah. So, yes, Sikhs, they do remember them. And their names are enshrined here whenever we do the Commonwealth Memorial thing. Yeah. Some Sikhs like to go and attend the activity.
What are those commemoration of?
In Kranji, they always have the annual Commonwealth Servicemen Commemoration. So some of our Sikh officers from the SAF, retired individuals, do attend that as part of the so-called veterans group.
So would that be for like World War I, World War II?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
And
the fall of Singapore commemoration is just over, right?
Yeah.
So I think the Sikh community is one of the communities that would go to the cenotaph and have that ceremony commemorating the
I think the cenotaph, I think, yes, they do invite normally a Sikh religious personality to join the other religious groups.
Yes.
Yeah. But the Kranji War Memorial is a big event where all the veterans and British servicemen do a simple parade. And they are also, the Sikhs normally attend that too. In Singapore context,
Did Sikhs fight in the Vietnam War?
No.
No, okay, that's much more recent already.
Yeah, that's recent. Because after India became independent, no, and the other countries, I think the Americans, Australians didn't have soldiers, Sikh soldiers yet. Now there's a sizable force of quite a lot of Sikhs have fought in the American army in Iraq.
Really? Wow.
In Afghanistan, if you go to fallen soldier grave in Washington, D.C. I also served in Washington for a few years.
Uh,
There are Sikhs names inscribed, those who fell during the Iraqi war.
wow.
Yeah.
So over the years, right? I mean, it's been decades since the colonial period, but this martial spirit is still alive among the Sikhs. I mean, I'm talking generally speaking all over the world.
It is, but in
Mm,
Singapore, most Singaporeans youth over the years have turned towards other professional things. I
yeah,
won't say it has died. There is pride, but in Singapore, most have sort of gone into other professions.
yeah.
It is no longer the number one thing. They do their national service, but not many remain as regulars. But in the Australian, American, Italian, and other armies in the world,
Mm,
the new migrants, they love to join the army because they still have that, because they come from India and they still have that uh, that spirit of serving the armed forces. Because in India, to join the armed forces is a big thing.
I see, I see.
To serve in the Sikh regiment is something unusual.
Have there been new citizens from Punjab to Singapore?
Yes, I think.
Ah,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Professionals, I mean, but they come in to do national service.
Ah,
PR now, our law requires PR to do national service.
mm,
So,
mm,
yes, I mean, you find Filipinos, you
yeah,
find even one or two Africans, you find
yeah.
Indians. Yeah,
I mean, among the Sikhs, have there been new citizens?
yes, they have been.
Yes.
They have
Quite a
been.
number or a sizable number?
I wouldn't know, but I think a very, very small number.
Okay,
Very
okay.
small.
Because some of the other Indian communities have had quite large numbers come in, right?
Not ours, not very much. I don't think
Uh,
so. By comparison, not negligible.
okay, okay. I have one last question, right? So you've written a fantastic book on the Northern Sikhs,
No,
and
no, it was just a very
no,
brief
no,
temple.
you're too modest. And
No.
there's another book, I think, on the pioneers of the Sikhs. I think mainly focusing on personalities, right? So I
Oh,
want to
yeah, yeah.
ask
There
you,
is one
yeah,
book that was written by, I think,
ah,
Rashpal Singh, also an old friend. I forgot his name now. Yeah.
uh, yeah, that's right.
Pioneers of
Rich
Singapore.
Pao Singh Sindhu,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
The early pioneers. So I
yes.
want to ask you, right, in terms of documenting the heritage of the Sikhs and the history, uh, what else maybe remains to be documented and what can still be done in terms of this work? Is to document the heritage of the Sikhs in Singapore, the history of the Sikhs. What else can still be done, whether as a book or whether as some kind of exhibition or program.
There a few have
Mm,
been done. There
mm,
were exhibitions, the Indian Heritage Month, and so
mm,
on.
mm, mm.
Uh, but I feel, yeah, much more can be done because, I mean, there are areas that need to be documented a little bit more.
Yeah.
For example, contributions of Sikhs in the uniform services, the police, and the army. That's something I feel should be documented because quite
Mm,
a lot
mm.
of individuals served in our uniform services from the earliest days till now. We should also, I mean, where the Sikhs are concerned, document one on the professional Sikhs and their
Mm.
contributions to Singapore. They're quite a lot. I mean, lawyers,
Yeah.
others, and so on, doctors. So
Mm.
that need to be documented too. It's not just the Sikh temples. Uh, Now the Sikhs are represented everywhere, proportionally more in relation to their population size,
Yeah.
and it's positive, and this should inspire the younger generation to
Yeah.
follow in terms of the future of our country. This is where we have made our home, and the younger generation need to know what the pioneers and others have been doing over the years. The younger Sikhs, yeah, because now it's a different system, their priorities and so on are
Mm,
different.
mm.
There is not sufficient awareness of the Sikhs in general and our contributions over the years in terms of nation building and so on. Yeah. And concentration now is everybody wants to push their children in a meritocratic, competitive environment. And in the process, they have little time for so-called even being involved in Sikh temples or other activities. Because they face a different set of challenges
Yeah.
in their life.
But I guess always the heritage element will always give you some guidance, right? Even if you are facing new challenges
Yeah,
going
sure,
forward.
sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Because there's so much of history about
Mm.
us.
And I can see the history behind you, right? Is that your mother behind you? Her portrait?
My mother and father.
And your father, okay. Can you say their names?
My father, that's Hakam Singh, and my mother is Sarjit Kaur. They have both
Thank
passed on, and my father was completely uneducated. Even until
ah,
the very end, all he could do was put his thumbprint. He never even could sign. And he brought up 7 of us
wow.
with
And
a
your mom,
salary of only $200. When he retired, his salary was, I think, about $260.
what was his number?
218.
218. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. What was yours?
No, I was not in the police force.
Okay, yeah.
I'm known as 218 son. We in
218 son.
that's the other unique thing in naval base. Seldom we use names of individuals. We'll say that is Uncle 218, that's Uncle 321, that's Uncle 6, Uncle 8. All our parents carried numbers. That was one of those unique things.
That's so interesting. Thank you so much, Maja. I mean, really grateful to you for spending this time to talk about, this remarkable history and the heritage of the Sikh community. I think I've learned a lot, and I think anyone who watches the video will have learned a lot too. So, thank you so much for your memories and explanations.
Thank you, Dr. Ho. It was nice of you having me. And I'm no authority, frankly. You cover too wide a subject, and there are a lot of areas I may have not been too accurate in dates and so on. And whatever opinions are just purely mine.
Thank you so much. Have a good weekend, and I'll let you know when the episode comes out, which probably will be quite soon. I think next week.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you very
yeah,
much.
yeah. Talk soon again. Yeah,
And
catch up
hopefully we
soon.
catch up one of these days.
Yes, yes, please. Let's do that with some of the
Sure.
other navalites. Yeah.
Sure. Sure.
See you then. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye
Take care.
bye.
Bye.